A flat tire, a rainy afternoon, and a woman with nothing to give but kindness. Fate needed nothing more. The rain fell in scattered sheets across the small, worn-out town of Hartville, soaking cracked sidewalks and rusted rooftops. Eliza Harper, 29, stood under a leaky awning outside the gas station, clutching her thin jacket tighter around her. She had just picked up a night shift at the diner nearby, her fourth job this week. Her feet ached, and her heart did too, but quitting was not an option. Not with 6-year-old Jamie waiting at home, tucked under a threadbare blanket. As she prepared to cross the street toward the diner, she noticed a sleek, black luxury car pulled off the side of the road. It didn't belong here. The neighborhood saw more broken bicycles than BMWs. The car had a flat tire, and beside it stood a tall man in a drenched coat, frowning at his phone. Something about him seemed out of place, not just his car or his expensive watch, but the look in his eyes. Lost, not just on the road, but somewhere deeper. Eliza hesitated. She didn't have time for kindness today, not with bills piled up and her landlord threatening eviction. But her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Do good, even when the world gives you nothing. She stepped into the rain. Need some help? She asked, brushing her wet hair back. The man looked up, surprised. I, yeah, I can't get a signal, and I've never changed a tire before. Eliza blinked. Seriously? She said, half laughing. Where are you from, Mars? He chuckled sheepishly. New York. Close enough. With the ease of someone used to doing things on her own, she crouched beside the car and popped open the trunk. The spare was there, along with the jack and tools, just dusty from disuse. The man knelt beside her, watching closely. I'm Daniel, he said. Daniel Cross. Eliza, she replied, tightening the bolts with practiced hands. He watched her in silence as she worked, hands steady, eyes focused, clothes damp, but her spirit unshaken. There was something striking about her. No makeup, no polish, but more real than anyone he'd met in years. You do this often? He asked. Only when billionaires get stranded in my neighborhood, she said with a smirk. He smiled but said nothing. By the time the tire was fixed, the rain had slowed. Daniel reached into his coat. Can I pay you for your help? She shook her head. Nah, just try not to drive through potholes next time. Before he could respond, she waved and walked off toward the diner, disappearing behind its flickering neon sign. He stood by the car, frozen for a moment, watching her go. The woman who had nothing had helped him without asking for a thing. Daniel Cross didn't know it yet, but that rainy encounter was the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. It started with a tire, but it was the way she looked at the world that left him coming back for more. The next morning, Eliza didn't expect to see the black car again. She had chalked it up to a strange, passing moment. One of those odd little events that you forget after a long day of work and worry. But there it was, parked right across the street from the diner. Eliza stepped out the back door during her short break, wiping her hands on her apron, when she saw him, Daniel, leaning against the car, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. She hesitated. You stalking me now? She called, half amused, half cautious. He grinned. I figured I owed you at least a thank you coffee. No ulterior motive. She raised a brow. You came all the way back here for that? He held out the cup like a peace offering. I was curious about the woman who knows more about cars than I do. Eliza walked over slowly, accepting the coffee, but keeping her guard up. You got a thing for mechanics? No, he said, but I do have a thing for people who don't hesitate to help when they don't have to. That made her pause. They sat on the curb, sipping their drinks, surrounded by the dull hum of passing cars and the occasional bark of a stray dog. It was nothing fancy, but it felt oddly peaceful. I looked you up, Daniel said after a long pause. Hope that's not weird. Eliza stiffened. Just your name. I found your diner profile and a fundraiser page from a while ago, for your son's medical treatment. Her jaw clenched. That was years ago. We're fine now. I didn't mean to pry, he said gently. I just wanted to know more. Eliza looked away, sipping her coffee to stall for time. Jamie's healthy. That's all that matters. Daniel nodded. He's lucky to have you. You don't know me, she said. Not yet. That silence stretched again, but this time it was different. Not awkward, just full of things neither of them knew how to say yet. "Why are you really here?" Eliza asked finally. He looked down at his shoes. "I needed a break from everything. My life's all boardrooms, meetings, people pretending to care. Yesterday was the first time someone helped me without knowing who I was." She gave a bitter smile. "I still don't know who you are." He glanced at her, a little surprised but not offended. "Then let me change that." She stood, brushing off her apron. "You've got 10 minutes before I go back to flipping pancakes." Daniel stood too, and they began walking. Just a man and a woman on a cracked sidewalk, sharing words that didn't yet carry weight, but might someday. Neither of them knew that those walks would soon become routine, that coffee would turn into conversation, and that in the most ordinary corner of the world, something extraordinary was quietly unfolding. She thought he was just a lost stranger with soft eyes, until the truth cracked her reality like a thunderclap. Eliza didn't consider herself naive. Life had been too unkind for too long to let her dream easily. But over the next 2 weeks, Daniel became familiar. Not in the fairy tale way, but in the quiet, dependable kind of way. He showed up, always respectful, never pushing too far, sometimes just to sit at the counter while she worked, sometimes to walk her home after a late shift. He even met Jamie, just once accidentally. But the way he knelt to Jamie's level and listened like the boy was the most important person on earth stirred something in her. Still, she kept her walls high, until that one Thursday evening. The diner was slow, and Eliza was wiping down tables when her coworker Becca walked in from the back, phone in hand, eyes wide. "Uh, Eliza?" she whispered, pulling her aside. "You know that guy who keeps coming around? Daniel?" Eliza glanced toward the front window, where Daniel was leaning against his car again. "Yeah, what about him?" Becca held up her phone screen. "That's Daniel Cross, like the Daniel Cross, billionaire CEO of Cross Tech, Forbes list, private jets, the guy your son just asked for an autograph from, apparently." Eliza stared at the screen, the same green eyes, the same jawline. And there it was, the photo that proved it. Daniel at a tech summit, flanked by executives. Her heart pounded. He had told her his last name, yes, but never once mentioned this life. Not the fortune, not the fame, not the empire he secretly ruled while walking around in a raincoat and buying diner coffee. She stormed outside, the bell above the door jangling violently. "You lied to me," she said straight to his face. Daniel turned, eyes caught mid-surprise. "Eliza, number, don't give me that voice. Don't act like this is nothing. You're Daniel Cross, billionaire, tech mogul. You let me think you were just some guy with a flat tire and a nice smile." "I never lied," he said softly. "I just didn't say everything." "Same thing," she snapped. "I don't do secrets. I've had enough of being played, abandoned, left to pick up the pieces." He stepped closer, hands raised in a kind of surrender. "I didn't tell you because I wanted to know if someone could care without the money. Without the name, well, congratulations," she said bitterly. "Now I know exactly why you don't trust people. Because people like me don't belong in your world." Daniel's face darkened, not with anger, but regret. "You belong more than most." She shook her head, her voice trembling now. "You don't get it. I've built my entire life on knowing what's real. And right now, nothing about you feels real." And with that, she walked away. Coffee cold, apron still stained, heart heavier than it had been in years. Daniel stood alone in the fading light, knowing he'd made his first real mistake, and desperately hoping it wouldn't be his last chance. Just when she thought she could walk away, life threw a twist she couldn't ignore, and neither could he. Eliza didn't expect to see him again, not in the diner, not on the street, not even in her thoughts. But Daniel Cross had a way of lingering, like the last note of a song that refused to fade. A full week passed with no contact. Eliza buried herself in shifts, in Jamie's school forms, in pretending her chest didn't tighten every time the front door chimed with a customer who wasn't him. Then came the letter. It wasn't mailed. It was hand-delivered, folded neatly inside Jamie's backpack. She found it while unpacking his lunchbox and recognized the handwriting instantly. Eliza, I didn't come to disrupt your life. I just wanted a break from mine. What happened with the tire was real. What happened after? That was even more real to me. If I hurt you by hiding the truth, I'm sorry. But I never lied about how I felt around you. There was no signature, no contact number, just that raw honesty that felt more dangerous than any lie. And Eliza hated that it still got to her. That Friday, as she walked Jamie home from school, they passed a playground filled with noisy kids and exhausted parents. Jamie tugged her hand. "Mommy, will the nice man come back?" Eliza blinked. "Which man?" "The one who fixed my shoe and asked about my dinosaurs. He said you were smart." Her breath caught. Daniel had done that? She hadn't known. "I don't know, baby," she said quietly. Jamie frowned. "I liked him. He didn't look rich." That last part made her laugh. Just a little. "No, I guess he didn't." The next day it rained again. And just like that first time, Daniel was there, soaked through, holding nothing but a clear umbrella and that same nervous look from weeks ago. "I know I said I'd back off," he said, "but I need to talk." Eliza didn't answer right away. She stood at the edge of the awning, arms crossed, watching the way he didn't flinch under the rain. "I should hate you," she said softly. "You can," he replied. "Just let me explain first." So she let him in, not just into the diner, but into the story she'd been too scared to tell, about how Jamie's father vanished before his first birthday, about nights spent choosing between dinner and electricity, about never asking for help because help never stayed. Daniel listened. No interruptions, no apologies, just presence. "I'm not asking you to forget everything," he said when she finished. "I just want to earn a place in the life you already built." "That life's messy," she warned. "I don't mind mess," he said. "I mind pretending it doesn't matter." Something shifted that day. Not everything, not yet, but enough. Enough for her to say, "One cup of coffee, that's all you get," and for him to say, "I'll take what I can get." Just when her heart began to open, fear whispered louder than hope, and she wondered if letting him in was the biggest mistake of all. Eliza stared at the coffee in her hand, barely tasting it. Daniel sat across from her at the booth in the far corner of the diner, the same place he always chose. Familiar, like so much of him had become. Yet something inside her twisted with unease. It wasn't just about who he was. It was about who she was. He asked about her day, her dreams, her favorite books. He remembered what kind of pie she hated and how she always touched the rim of her mug twice before drinking. He listened with his full attention, something no one else in her life had done for years. And that's what scared her. One quiet evening, after walking her and Jamie home from the store, Daniel stopped on her porch and asked gently, "Eliza, can I take you out? Not coffee, a real date." The air shifted. She looked away, panic rising like a wave. "Daniel, I have a son. I have bills. I have scars you can't even see." "I don't need you perfect," he said. "But I'm not your world," she snapped too sharply. "You live in boardrooms and private jets. I live in discount aisles and secondhand shoes. We're not the same. You'll grow tired of this. Of me." Daniel's eyes didn't waver. "I don't want someone from my world. That world is cold, lonely, and full of people who say yes because they want something. You're the first real thing I've felt in years." But her doubts weren't so easily soothed. That night, long after Jamie fell asleep, Eliza sat on her narrow balcony staring at the stars. Her heart beat too loudly in the silence. She wanted to believe Daniel. She wanted to believe in fairy tales and second chances. But every time she got close to something good, life had a habit of taking it away. Could she really trust him? Would Jamie get attached, only for Daniel to disappear? And most terrifying of all, what if she let herself fall and it changed everything? For worse. The next morning, Daniel didn't come by, nor the next. By the third day, Eliza told herself it was better this way, cleaner, safer. But then Jamie came home from school with a crumpled drawing clutched in his small hand. It was a picture of their family, her, Jamie, and Daniel. Three figures under a bright sun, smiling. Written in crooked letters at the top, "My happy place." Her heart cracked in half. because despite every wall she'd tried to keep standing, Daniel had already slipped through, and she didn't know if she was strong enough to push him back out again. Sometimes the heart knows before the mind catches up, and hope has a way of knocking just when you think the door is closed for good. 3 more days passed, each one longer than the last. Eliza didn't reach out. Daniel didn't return. And though she told herself that was fine, even necessary, her heart wasn't convinced. Jamie, ever observant, noticed her mood. "Is the nice man mad at you?" he asked one evening, swinging his legs at the kitchen table as he colored in his dinosaur book. "I don't think so," Eliza said, forcing a smile. "Sometimes people just take space." "Will he come back?" Eliza hesitated. "I don't know, baby." That night, while folding laundry, she found something in Jamie's pocket, a smooth black business card with gold lettering. Cross Industries, his full name printed below. Daniel Elias Cross. Her thumb brushed over it like it might spark something. Maybe courage. She picked up her phone, typed his name, hovered over the call button, then locked the screen again. The next morning it rained. Of course it rained. Eliza rushed Jamie to school under an old umbrella that barely worked. Her shoes were soaked by the time she returned to the diner for her shift. She hung her coat, tied her apron, and buried herself in orders. Anything to ignore the ache under her ribs. It was lunchtime when the door opened, and a hush fell over the room. Daniel stood there, water dripping from his tailored coat, holding a white paper bag in an awkward smile. "I brought you lunch," he said, "and I think I owe you 1,000 apologies." Eliza didn't move. Her co-workers stared. The cook peeked through the window. Finally, she stepped forward. "You disappeared." "I wanted to give you space," he said, "but it turns out space from you is the loneliest place I've ever been." The silence between them stretched. Tense, fragile, hopeful. "Jamie drew this," Eliza said softly, pulling out the crumpled drawing from her pocket. "He called it My Happy Place. You're in it." Daniel's eyes softened. "I don't want to mess up your world," she whispered, "but I'm afraid of letting you into mine." He walked closer, lowering his voice. "Then let me meet you in the middle. Not as a billionaire, not as a rescue, just as a man who wants to be worthy of that drawing." Her breath caught. It wasn't a perfect moment. It wasn't grand or cinematic, but it was honest, and it was enough. She nodded slowly. "Okay, one lunch, one walk home. No promises." Daniel smiled. Not the charming, practiced smile the world knew, but something quieter, realer. "I'm not here for promises," he said. "I'm here for possibilities." Not all promises are spoken out loud. Some are written in the way a person shows up, stays, and refuses to walk away when things get hard. It began with small things. Daniel started picking Jamie up from school on Fridays, always on time, always with a snack. He never tried to impress, never showed off. He knelt to Jamie's eye level, listened to every dinosaur fact, and learned how to braid hair after Eliza mentioned she struggled with it. He didn't sweep Eliza off her feet. He sat beside her on the floor after a long shift, folding laundry while she vented about bills and leaking faucets. He didn't try to fix her life, just helped her carry it. One night as rain tapped against the windows and Jamie snored softly in the other room, Daniel leaned against the kitchen counter while Eliza brewed tea. "I've never felt so tired and so peaceful," she said, turning the cup in her hands. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. No makeup, hair messy, hoodie 2 sizes too big. And still, he thought she was the most stunning thing he'd ever seen. "I want to be here," he said quietly. "Not just now. I want the late nights, the mess, the burnt toast mornings. I want what this is turning into." Eliza froze. Her mind shouted all the reasons to pull away again. It wasn't safe. She couldn't trust it. Nothing this good lasted. But then Daniel did something unexpected. He didn't wait for her to respond. He stepped forward slowly and placed something on the counter. It was a small homemade keychain, a hand-drawn stick figure of her and Jamie held together by a heart. "I made this with Jamie at the art supply store today. He said it should be yours, but only if you wanted it." Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked it up. I'm not asking you to say anything tonight, Daniel said, voice calm. Just know that this is where I want to be. Eliza looked at the keychain, at the man who had slowly, gently worked his way into her life without demanding space, just earning it piece by piece, and she realized something. He wasn't waiting for a promise from her. He was making one to her. The next morning, she placed the keychain on her lanyard next to her house key. Jamie noticed right away. Does that mean he's family now? He asked. Eliza kissed the top of his head. It means he's trying to be, she said. And sometimes trying means more than perfect. That evening, as Daniel held the door for them with a quiet smile, Jamie grabbed his hand and didn't let go. And Eliza, she didn't stop him. Not this time. Sometimes happiness sneaks up like a soft breeze, unexpected, unannounced, but impossible to ignore once it touches your soul. The first real sign came on a Saturday afternoon. Jamie was playing in the small park down the street, chasing after a wayward soccer ball, when Daniel appeared, carrying an ice cream cone in each hand. Hey, champ, ready for a treat? Daniel asked, smiling wide. Jamie's face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds. Eliza watched from a bench, heart swelling with an unfamiliar warmth. She'd always imagined this moment, someone stepping in, taking care of Jamie. But this was better than any dream. It was real. Daniel sat beside her, handing Jamie his ice cream. Jamie's eyes sparkled as he licked the melting chocolate. Your dad's pretty cool, Jamie said with a grin. Eliza felt her throat tighten. It wasn't just a compliment to Daniel. It was a moment where Jamie, her little boy who'd weathered so much, felt safe enough to call this man Dad. Later that evening, as rain softly pattered against the windows, they huddled on the couch under a warm blanket, watching old cartoons. Daniel had learned to laugh at Jamie's jokes, to toss popcorn into the air for catching, to celebrate every small victory. One night, Eliza caught Daniel humming softly as he helped Jamie get ready for bed. What's that? She asked. Just a song Jamie made up, he said, grinning. I think I'm learning from the best. Eliza smiled, realizing the heaviness she'd carried for so long was lifting, replaced by light she hadn't dared to hope for. Joy wasn't perfect. It was messy and unexpected. But it was here, and it was theirs. Love isn't just found in perfect moments. It's forged in the fire of challenges, patience, and the courage to hold on when everything feels uncertain. Life wasn't always easy. The bills still piled up. Jamie still needed extra help with schoolwork. Eliza's job remained demanding and exhausting. Daniel's world, though glamorous on the outside, came with pressures she couldn't always understand. One evening after a long day, Eliza snapped at Daniel over something small, a forgotten appointment, a miscommunication. I'm trying, Eliza, Daniel said quietly, but sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, I'm not enough. Eliza's anger melted into exhaustion. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared you'll get tired of this life. Of me. Daniel reached out, holding her hand. I'm not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. But even with those words, doubt crept in. Weeks passed with quiet tension, smiles forced, conversations clipped. Then Jamie fell ill, a high fever that kept him in bed for days. Daniel took time off work, staying by his side, reading stories, holding his hand through restless nights. It was in those moments, watching Daniel care for Jamie with tender patience, that Eliza's heart softened again. This wasn't just a passing phase. This was real. Love tested by sleepless nights and harsh realities, and still standing. One rainy afternoon, Eliza found Daniel waiting for her outside the diner with 2 umbrellas. Ready for a walk? He asked. She took one and smiled. Sometimes love wasn't about grand gestures. Sometimes it was about showing up. Every ending is just a new beginning in disguise, a chance to turn the page, heal old wounds, and step forward with hope. Spring was slowly unfolding, painting the city with fresh green and blooming flowers. The cold, harsh days of winter felt like a distant memory, replaced by sunlight and the soft buzz of new life. Eliza stood by the window, watching Jamie run around the backyard, his laughter filling the air. Daniel was beside her, holding a cup of coffee, the warmth from the mug mirroring the growing warmth in their hearts. We made it, Daniel said softly. Through the storms, the doubts, we made it. Eliza smiled, feeling the weight of the past months finally lift. The fights, the fears, the long nights, everything had brought them here. Jamie's happier, she whispered, and so am I. They'd started fresh. New routines, new traditions, weekend breakfast filled with pancakes and stories, homework help that felt like teamwork, not a burden, quiet moments stolen in the chaos, reminding them both why they'd fought so hard. Eliza had even started thinking about dreams she'd buried long ago, maybe going back to school, maybe starting her own business. With Daniel's quiet encouragement, those dreams no longer seemed impossible. One afternoon, as Jamie built a makeshift fort in the living room, Daniel took Eliza's hand. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Our story isn't perfect, but it's ours." Eliza squeezed his hand, feeling hope bloom where fear once lived. Sometimes new beginnings come wrapped in the simple moments: laughter, trust, and the courage to keep believing. True love sometimes asks for the hardest choices, the ones that break your heart but prove the depth of your soul. Just when everything seemed to be falling into place, life threw its hardest test. Daniel received a job offer in another state, a once-in-a-lifetime chance that could secure their future, but meant leaving behind the home and the life they'd built together. Eliza's heart sank at the thought. Jamie's school, her job, the fragile new routine, all threatened to unravel. Daniel saw the worry in her eyes. "I want this for us," he said, voice steady but eyes heavy. "But I don't want to force you or Jamie into something you're not ready for." For days they debated. Eliza wrestled with the decision, the desire for stability battling the fear of change. One night, Jamie tugged on her sleeve, eyes wide. "Mom, if Daddy goes, will you still be here for me?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. The answer wasn't easy. In the end, Daniel made his choice. He declined the job. "This family means more than any paycheck," he told Eliza. They found a way to make do with less, choosing each other over convenience. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was love, the kind that sacrifices everything without hesitation. Eliza knew then that no matter what the future held, they had already won. They had each other. When all the pieces finally fall into place, a deep peace settles, the kind that only comes from battles fought, hearts healed, and dreams shared. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of gold and soft pink. Eliza stood on the porch, holding Jamie's hand tightly, while Daniel arranged chairs in the backyard. Today was special, an evening to celebrate their journey, their family, and the love that had blossomed through every challenge. Friends and neighbors began to arrive, bringing dishes, smiles, and stories. Laughter filled the air, mixing with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass. Jamie ran around, showing off a new soccer trick, his eyes sparkling with joy. Eliza watched Daniel from across the yard, the way his eyes softened when Jamie called him Dad, the way his smile never faded. She realized that through all the storms, all the sacrifices, they had created something beautiful. Daniel approached her, handing her a glass of sparkling juice. "To us," he toasted softly. "To us," Eliza echoed, feeling a warmth that words couldn't capture. They shared stories of the past year, the moments of doubt, the small victories, the unexpected kindness from strangers, and the unwavering strength they found in each other. Jamie tugged at Eliza's sleeve. "Mom, can we make this our new tradition?" She nodded, eyes moist with happiness. "Yes, sweetheart. Every year." As the stars began to twinkle, Daniel pulled Eliza close. "We're more than just surviving," he said. "We're thriving. Together." Eliza rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that had become her anchor. In that final harmony of light and love, she knew the future was bright, no matter what it held. Because this family, imperfect and strong, had found its true melody.